We may be live, we may not. Let's see. And we are. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the ID update for September. Yes, it is still September. Ignore your watches, ignore your calendars. It is the last day of September because we said so.
Yes.
Now, we've got a really, really awesome show today. Actually, we have news to talk about. We've got stuff going on in tech. We've got stuff going on in resources. We've got stuff going on in finances. We've got events coming up. Oh, there's actually going to be stuff to talk about.
Heck yeah.
So we're going to we'll dive right into the show. As always, it's the last Friday of the month. It is. Don't challenge it. My name's Tom.
And I'm Joe.
And let's roll that intro. There's only one place for the breaking news in the world of instructional design. The ID Update with Tom and Joe. All the news you never knew you never needed. Only on IDT. Oh, so it's been a month. It feels like that's how we start every show, right?
Yeah, God. This is like a special one. It's just been really busy. There's been a lot of travel for me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, let's start with the beer and let's do a quick update, and then we will dive into some of the stuff that has gone down this month. So,
Yes.
what are you drinking this evening?
All right. It's also evening too. It's 1 p.m.
Yeah, totally.
It's 8 for Tom. So oh my God. Actually, so I just got, I think I've mentioned I have like a beer of the month club thing that my parents-in-law, screw it, their parents, they got me. So I just got a box from them yesterday. So I'm trying one of those ones from them. And I didn't read this thing fully until just now. So this is gonna be interesting. Anyway, beer for the day. River Horse, Hippo. It's a triple. It's Belgian triple.
Nice.
Belgian ale with spices. The thing that I missed though, if you could see that, that's not gonna, whatever. It's 10% alcohol by volume is what that's trying to say.
Nice.
So I didn't realize that was happening. But to make this more fun, as of a 10% at 1 p.m. on a Friday, couldn't get better in September. Glass for the day, 71 Brewing. This is special because I was out in your neck of the woods, Tom, out in Dundee. Well, not quite your neck of the woods, but I was across the pond. There we go. I was in Dundee, Scotland last week. So we went to a brewery because, of course, we went to a brewery. And went to 71, which is actually really freaking cool. It was real good. It was real good.
They make good beer, which is...
they make fantastic beer.
Not always a guarantee these days with some breweries that are opening.
I apparently forgot how to pour beer. Look at that.
Oh, dear.
That's glorious.
That is not the world's greatest pour, is it? But
I'm not used to these glasses. I blame your goofy glasses. I put whiskey in this.
Yeah, it's quite a new style of glass, isn't it? Really? They're kind of well, so I suppose they're not in mainland Europe. Kind of Belgian glasses. They've got all different shapes for all their different types of beer.
It's a tulip without the stem.
This is it. Yeah,
yeah.
It kind of felt like people were having them and then feeling that they were a bit kind of pretentious with the stem, so they just hacked them off at the bottom.
A little too hard to hold it without doing this with the pinky.
That's it. That's it. It's so ingrained over here. You pick something up, and if you can, out goes the pinky.
Yep.
Just one of those things.
All right, that's mine. Your turn. What you got?
So I have got a bottle of Charbon smoked vanilla stout flavored with fenugreek. Your favorite stout gone nuts.
I understood like 4 of those words, but it sounds amazing.
I'm really hoping this is good because I can't pronounce this company. It's in tiny lettering. You're not going to be able to see it on the camera anyway. But they produce amazing beer. And this is a unique Christmas special. And I only have this because my wife very purchased for me a beer advent calendar.
Ooh.
Now, you may have noticed that it's not December yet, and yet I have
Yeah,
this
it's
in my
September.
hand. Yeah, so we're going away in December. We're going on a
Okay.
cruise, and then we're coming back, and we're staying in Wales for a little while, and it's going to be very nice. But I don't really fancy lugging a huge box of 24 bottled beers onto a cruise ship.
That's fair.
That feels like a lot of excess luggage, with the potential for some horrific damage to other items in the bag, should something go wrong. So I
That's
made
fair.
the logical, sensible, and responsible choice of opening it today and taking all the bottles of beer out. And thus I have this. And naturally, given where we are and when we are, I am using the ID Update Perfect Pint Glass, which is after some rigorous user testing, I can confirm it is an exceptional pint glass, in that it holds a pint of beer, doesn't leak. Yeah, that's about it, really. But
That's all you need.
exactly,
All it really needs to do.
absolutely. And look at that; it just sits in. That's always the sign of a good stout, when you just chuck it in the glass. And it's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna sit here. It's fine. Don't worry.
Like mine that needed to be cuddled. All
Ah,
right.
that's it,
Anyway,
isn't it?
cheers.
Cheers, indeed. Mm. Oh, that is good.
Oh man, that is not bad. Oh my god. Okay. All right, River Horse out of where are you from? Ewing, New Jersey. New Jersey, the armpit of the United States. Good job.
Okay,
Good
that's
job.
that's one way of doing it. Oh,
I'm not actually kidding. That's actually how they normally. Well, it's not how they naturally. New Jersey doesn't say it that way.
I would assume not.
But-
No, no.
no, but it is. That's how they are often referred to because it smells awful there. They actually had some guy did a whole campaign, and I think it's still up called NewJerseyDoesn'tStink.com
Okay.
to try to get away from that armpit of America.
I mean, if you need to run that campaign, there is a strong chance that something is not good in that area.
Yeah. It's a little rough.
Okay, that's
A little rough.
Hey, I live in Swindon. I cannot be judging any area based on that. That's
There we go.
reasonable. And
To our friends on YouTube, cheers, Mike.
yes, I was going to say, everyone in the chat, we've got someone viewing on Twitch as well. Our lone Twitch viewer. Welcome.
Hi, Twitch.
I'm sorry, I so often forget about Twitch. We didn't go with them for so long. And just so you all know as well, we are streaming on some new hardware. I finally managed to get my hands on a new graphics card. But therefore, do let me know what the stream is like.
It looks good. You
I'm
look better
hoping
than
it's
I do.
good.
How about that?
That's, yeah, it should be a lot better than it was. We've jumped 2 generations of graphics card technology here, so we should be good. But do let us know.
I need to upgrade. That's my year-end goal, is to upgrade my machine.
It's worth doing, but at the same time, it's so difficult to get good parts right now. So difficult.
Yeah, we talked about that. What, last time? 2 times before?
Yeah, I think that's it. We do. Even when we went looking, we were just like, "This is madness." I'd like a reasonably priced computer. It's like, well, then you can buy a laptop.
So for those of you watching or who watched this and haven't watched the previous ones, I want to say it was 2 months ago where we talked about technology, learning technology, and we did kind of our dream machines, feasible machines, and what gets us through what like minimal. And in each one of those, it was what can you actually get your hands on, which was pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
Or it was like $7,000.
Yeah. This is it. It's a bit mad at the minute, as everyone I think everyone kind of knows. You only got to look at the state of trying to get a games console. Like at the point where games consoles are actually hard to get hold of this long after launch, you know there's a problem, right? The semiconductor world is just not recovering as quickly as the rest of us, unfortunately.
Right.
But,
you know what I have to say before we jump in? So I got this box yesterday, but I didn't open it until literally like 5 minutes ago. So I actually have another one that I'm going to drink once we get through this, because we always finish one early. I am thankful that because I did not open the box, it wasn't in the fridge, and I'm drinking this fairly warm, and it's
Ooh.
fantastic. I am thankful I'm drinking this one warm. That's the nice thing about the UK too, is the cask ale. It's a bit warmer. Oh, made way to make the flavors come out. But warm.
No,
Don't ever discount warm beer, guys.
warm beer is the correct drink. This is it. And if you actually go to the point of not just having it at room temperature, but warming it up, get a nice bitter, just warm it up a little bit. You don't have to be like hot, but just warm, then have it with a nice bit of meringue. And
Yeah.
oh, wonderful, wonderful evening snack.
Basically,
like a
every bar in
dessert.
Scotland that had a house bitter, I had it, and I was so happy. It's like,
Excellent.
okay. Anyway,
Yeah, so
news.
let's jump into everything that happened this month. Do you know what? Let's lead off with do you know what? Let's leave off with the punchline of every joke we usually tell. Adobe.
Oh no.
So for those of you who haven't tuned in before, we somewhat regularly poke a little fun at the the Windows 98 of authoring tools that is Captivate. Let's be honest, it's not that great anymore. Updates probably should have followed the 2016 release, as opposed to just a rebranding and the occasional fix when something breaks.
And then they called it 2019.
Yeah, I feel like they'd have been better off just not releasing an update when they did that. That was hey, Kara's in the chat.
In the house. You should stick around for like the next 2 minutes. Seriously, you are not gonna regret it.
So you may remember 3 or 4 months ago, Joey here did some underground investigative journalism, and gave us the heads up that something big was happening with Captivate. A complete redesign, new tools, bringing it in line with the rest of the Creative Cloud. Well, guess what Adobe just told us they were doing? Scrapping it completely. No.
What?
No, of course not. So, yeah, at the Adobe e-learning conference last week, we got to see some very controlled, I will grant you, images of the new Captivate, also known as, and don't get me wrong, this is not a cool name, Project Charm.
Project Charm.
Yeah, not Project X, or...
It should have been Project Apology.
Project Utter Desperation. But yes, no cool nickname. We got Project Charm, and I've got to say, it looked pretty neat.
So here's the question. Was it called Captivate? I know it's called Project Charm, but did they actually say next version of Captivate?
They kind of alluded to that pretty strongly, and on the Adobe website, for which I should have a link handy, there we are, they do refer to it as the what's new with Adobe Captivate. So I think they are going to continue with the Captivate naming, branding.
No, I wanted to get that one right. I was really confident that I had that one right.
Yes.
Which so everybody knows, my theory was with Adobe Captivate Prime being their main marketing push with the name Captivate and it being an LMS, they were doing that to steal attention away from their learning platform with the hope of re-releasing it in some grand way like they're about to do, but renaming it so Captivate Prime Captivate gets to be associated with Captivate Prime, and whatever the new tool would get to shine and be new, similar to how Flash turned into Animate. That was my theory, and I might have been wrong on that one. Yes. Or maybe it's going to be called Adobe Charm. It won't.
I mean, yeah, that would be like, we've redeveloped this tool. We want no one to buy it, so what should we call it?
Really thought I had that one.
Yeah, it does surprise me that, well, I guess they're kind of, it's double-edged, right? If they were going to completely reinvent it and genuinely create a new tool, you would want to get rid of the Captivate weight around your neck, right?
Yeah.
But it very much seems to me like the core of the tool is the same. It seems like they've added in, a lot of the stuff we've just come to expect from authoring tools. They talked a lot about user experience and the flow of using the tool, and that it needed a dramatic update. It's like, yeah, you're not it's not a genius point that you spotted, did you? That's um, but they didn't speak a huge amount about like earth-shattering new functionality. Mostly, it does seem to be bringing it in line with the kind of user experience and interface that we see in Adobe XD,
Yeah.
which I'm not going to complain about. I'm a big XD fan.
Yeah.
One of the things I hope that's in there is better or just some workflow integration with other Adobe products. Like that is, for me, that is the selling point of the Creative Cloud. It's the automated workflows between Audition and Premiere and After Effects and Illustrator and InDesign and XD, is just be able to move between them very easily. They're all intercompatible. Captivate always stood out for me as it's an Adobe product that doesn't work with any other Adobe products. And when their whole selling point is, look at this lovely kind of suite that functions as a single entity within your business, it feels odd, you know?
You know what I'm worried about? Well, you know what's going to happen? Because they give us this shining beacon of hope. You know what they're going to do to that point?
Yep.
Captivate is now integrated with Adobe Bridge. It's coming.
Yes, it's the number of people, we've said before, isn't it? The number of people on the planet that need Adobe Bridge. Well, most of them work at Adobe, I think. It's, if ever there was a bit of software designed for someone who has a very specific need, and has been allowed some free development time at work, that would be it.
Yeah. So Adobe,
Yeah.
normally not sponsored by Adobe, but love to chat. Using the States, the Daily Show, it's like the Daily Show Arby's relationship, where Daily Show always attacked Arby's, and then Arby's sponsored at the end.
That's
mostly out of spite, but
why not? Why on earth not? Hey, I'm not above it. I'll slag your product off and then take your money.
There we go.
No, absolutely not. But no, I've got to say, actually, the Adobe eLearning World 2021 actual event was fantastic. Really, really great speakers, tons of workshops and masterclasses for basics. They had stuff about LMS, they had stuff about virtual classroom. That link that I've posted in both the chats, they've actually got all that stuff recorded.
Yeah,
so
I'm noticing that. I have to go back.
And there's tons of stuff there. And don't get me wrong, none of it is earth-shattering new approaches to anything. The Adobe is not going to lead a new wave of instructional design practice. But in terms of using technology, these sessions are awesome.
This list is not messing around.
No, this is it. They covered a huge amount. And it was kind of an example of the benefits of running an event like this online. You can have multi-tracks that people can just come back to later. So they did a really fantastic job. The game design workshop was really quite interesting. Whether you really buy into games in learning and that kind of thing, and I think most of us do to some degree at this point, it was actually quite an interesting look at the practicalities of doing it, rather than just this, oh yeah, put a game in it and it'll be better. Without any sort of further exploration of that idea. So yeah, no, I think really positive stuff from Adobe, actually.
Good on them.
Yeah, this is it. I would love. I was speaking to someone the other day, and they said, "But you're not a big fan of Captivate, so why blah blah blah." Even if I never then switch to back to using Captivate, competition in a market is a good thing. It's who knows, maybe it will give other storyline manufacturers a kick to sort their stuff out and actually start to innovate again, not just throw out functionality that is technically clever but ultimately useless. Maybe it will make them consider not putting out bug-ridden, crash-ridden nonsense for their code. I think there's a lot of potential for a lot of good to come out of another big player in the market.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I'm kind of looking at what Storyline has done lately, and they're all 360 all the time right now, like they invented it. Which, don't get me wrong, it was cool to see the VR 360 degree stuff.
Yeah.
But now I'm looking at the last 2 months of things, and it is nothing but that. And I'm really see, October is going to be, or actually not October, because you can't go that fast in a development cycle. But I bet Q1 for Storyline is going to be nuts. I bet they look at Captivate and say, "Oh crap, Mac users can actually do things again."
Yep.
And then try, like, I expect some really cool things to come from Storyline in Q1, and I hope they get off of VR fast and fix their basic things like text. It'll be fun to see. Healthy. It's healthy. These are good things.
Yes.
These are good things.
Yep, we've seen this in the tech market. Competition is key to businesses pushing forwards. They're not going to do it without a need to. And the only thing that's going to provide that need is a real threat, a real competitor. And I think we've already kind of seen that with the likes of Articulate ultimately created Rise as a response to the responsive course design tools in Captivate, which were ropey at best, but setting that aside, you also had Domino. Which is really gaining ground at the moment. I'm hearing so much more about it than we did a year ago.
We just talked about them we talked about them last month, I think.
Don't know if we did. Possibly. But they've done very, very well. They're certainly going. We're hearing more about tools like Evolve and Adapt, and far less just a default to Storyline or Captivate. And the one thing all these tools have in common is responsiveness, modern design, HTML5 based. Not many of them are now still defaulting to a slide based presentation style.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for Storyline, is that Storyline only does that. Like you can make it appear to be something else. You can have scrolling panels and motion paths and stuff that goes off the page and all this kind of stuff. But at its heart, it will always be a slide-based authoring tool. And that's the one thing I think Captivate always did very well, was having those options to create stuff that wasn't slide-based.
Yes.
The design tools themselves may not have been the best, but just the ability to do something else was always there. So that could be an exciting next 12 months, I think. Could be. We'll see.
Could be. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
If anything, I'm looking forward to, because we're going to have a bunch to talk about, and then we're going to have to learn stuff.
This is it. It's going to be cool to have to relearn a tool. I think that'll be one of the most interesting things.
Yeah. I think we could use a kick in the teeth. I've worked on enough projects. I've worked in enough companies. I think the industry can just use getting slapped in the face and saying, get out of the 90s. Try something interesting.
Absolutely. But I think that goes beyond technology as well. I think when you look at what learning and development gets away with in businesses, the number of times you sit in meetings and you're getting status reports and general business updates, and other areas of the business are talking about KPIs, hard metrics, reported data, projections, and you get round to L&D and they start talking about engagement and happy sheets and fluff.
60 more people. You are video.
This is it. And then when we're questioned about it, and I say we because we as an industry, and I know that, for instance, I know we both have views on this. Everyone probably tuning in here has views, but the reality is, we as an industry are known for this. We lack data.
Yes.
Or rather, we lack the knowledge of what to do with data, or what data we should be collecting and how that relates to the business. So often we hear, oh, but you can't always put a hard number on something. It's like, well, then how are you measuring the effectiveness of the money you're spending? You know,
Yeah.
if you can't measure the impact, should you be doing it? Um, and that's not
That's why we don't get money.
universal. This is it. What other department just goes, well, we've got no way of measuring the effectiveness, but we're going to spend this money? That sounds like a terrible business model.
Look at support tickets, guys. Give me a platform that integrates with like a support ticketing system, and we're golden. Give me that. There's your $1 billion. Well, there's your $1 million idea. Is like get into like right now and get into these support ticket generated ones and have a training directly associated with that.
Oh, that would be cool. So when you're raising a ticket, you kind of get some kind of feedback around, could you fix this yourself? And then similarly, you've got training for the engineer on the other side if they need it.
Well, the thing is I've worked for enough support agencies. I know that the default setting for most support is go find the article or the training that corresponds with the question. And it'd be great to have a system, a training system that, hey, I see you're doing a ticket. Have you checked out this? Just in there, like that annoying little chat window that pops up. But also being able to tie those trainings to the same support categories and have those built in. So from a UX perspective, I would love to be able to say, hey, I'm having my team log tickets under this, and I'm having my training team write articles under the same categories. And I can mirror the two, and I can see how many customers are viewing articles under these categories, and are those same customers putting in tickets under those categories. That lets me know if things work or don't. That would be cool. I'm going to flicker the camera because the Logitech C920 is not a good camera. Not sponsored by Logitech.
No worries. So yeah, I think there's gonna have to be like quite a big switch in how we think about kind of data and reaching out to people. And we always tend to think about research in terms of SMEs. We always tend to think about research in terms of people. And we, especially these days, it's not my favorite selection of terms, but we talk about empathy mapping and user interviews. And I don't mind any of it. I just think the language around it lends itself to the fluffiness that we then create, rather than thinking about this in terms of data collection. You know, we need to start as an industry, because I know some of us already do, but I'm going to continue with that language and stop explaining it every time now. I just always worry that someone's going to get offended. But broadly as an industry,
the less people around us understand the terminology we're using, the more we get to BS our way into saying it's relevant.
Exactly. This is it. And this is why I get so worried about engagement. You know, there was some interesting conversations on LinkedIn this last month around engagement and about what it means, and that it worries me massively that a lot of tools and small businesses and big businesses seem to be selling engagement as the end result of training.
That's weird. That's the end result of a platform, maybe.
This is it. Like engagement is just a step in the learning process. Like I need to engage an audience so that they can learn stuff. And but people are buying into it. Oh, the main reason we switched to this platform is engagement.
It doesn't mean it's a word. Doesn't mean anything.
This is it. What does that actually mean?
Engagement's a cause, not an effect. But guys,
this is it. So here we go. We've got Michael coming in. That would be a great way to measure it too. A decrease in certain tickets and an improvement in individuals learning and fixing their own problems. Absolutely.
Yeah, so let me expand on that, because I worked in support. For years. My actual journey into training came from being a tier 1, then tier 2 support tech. And they said, wow, you do a really great job of explaining complicated things in very simple ways. How would you like to make not enough money and do that full time? And I said, I would love to, because I was a dumb idiot kid. But I jumped from tier 2 into training. And one of the key ways that we measured success was saying, we were able to decrease number of tickets on categories. Like if we saw an influx of categories, we can point people to articles and trainings and see if they hit those first, and see that, you know, login attempt tickets were decreased because we finally had a training on it. We put it front and center. The other metric that meant a lot to us was number of touches in that ticket. Not only Was it, can we reduce the number of tickets? But in the tickets that come in, can we reduce the number of touches on each one? Can somebody ask a question that they weren't sure about or couldn't find? And then in 1 or 2 attempts, point them to documentation or training or something that answered their question. Both of those metrics in coming down, one, it was really easy to tell where we needed to focus. Like, you want to talk about a roadmap builder. Any company that comes to you and says we've got a company roadmap for the next year does not. They chopped and Frankenstein a bunch of stuff that people would like, but it is not reflective of reality. And anyone who's worked in ID for half a day knows that. So we had a roadmap now that we just worked with support and said, what keeps coming in? Let's solve those problems. And they were real fast because Lord knows support and engineering love to help with content that makes them stop answering questions. And then we went from there.
Yeah, it strikes me, it's an example of L&D deliberately making itself useful to the business rather than just thinking about what interests learning and development, which is so often the case.
And that's how you monetize also. One of the other challenges that I've had selling training to big companies is that we usually don't have a credit card attached to it unless we are a direct line item in a contract, which is something I push for regularly, is to have a training retainer that rolls into like a project retainer if you don't use it. We don't bring in revenue. We definitely don't bring in revenue that's interesting. We maybe ad hoc sessions here and there. So you have to work backwards. You have to attribute revenue to revenue protected and revenue gained by not wasting time, not revenue brought in through our own contracts and our own a la carte offerings. And it works so much better when you can prove that. And it's really easy to prove that when it comes to things like support tickets and the time that you are reducing from people whose job it is to do your job if you don't have training enabled. It works so well.
Absolutely.
So I got such strong feelings of I've got so many strong feelings. I could do a whole episode, but I'm gonna just drink beer and shut up.
No, I was going to say, but this is why I get in a bit of a grump when I hear so many people talking about in the flow training, because that's what in the flow training actually is. It's providing support to a real and immediate problem that someone needs you to fix for them. It's there when you need it. It's go. It's not this massive variety of courses that have no practical application in that person's day. And those things do have a place. Of course they do. This is a bit like the courses versus resources argument. You need both. You can't have one or the other. In the flow stuff is great for fixing that immediate need. But across your job, your career, your lifetime, you also need those broader conceptual courses to educate you on new topics where a little tactical how-to guide is not going to do the trick if you're trying to get your head around the concept of situational leadership or whatever. You got Michael coming in the chat as well. Engagement being the result is a horrible idea. I really enjoyed this training. It was so engaging. Great. What did you learn? I don't know. I just had fun. Yeah, those are the kind of days where I kind of hate being an instructional designer and hate being part of the industry where that is. We almost see that as good feedback.
We played a game. Shut up.
This is it. All this stuff is great. I would love learning to be fun and engaging and people enjoy doing it, so long as it is still actually learning that they're doing, not receiving an entertainment product.
Yeah.
Especially seen as instructional designers, when they try to, do not make very good entertainment products.
I don't know. I think we do well. We need
the most popular animation tool in our industry is Vyond. I rest my case.
Okay. Okay. I feel all right. So if I might get into a little trouble for this one. So we just tried out a Vyond video for the first time, and it got shredded to pieces for feedback, and I was like, oh no, like they just weren't ready. I felt really bad. We still get to kind of use it in an idea, but we were like so excited. I was like, hey, let's bring some animation, let's bring something different and fun and exciting, and it just got wrecked.
Yeah, animation is a tricky topic. And I talk about it a lot for obvious reasons. I'm a
You know
big fan
what?
of it.
Don't give us an animation. Hey, tech companies out there, don't give us an animation tool. Give me a motion graphic tool. Give me a motion graphic creator.
Exactly.
Just a motion
This
graphic
is-
creator. Don't make me figure out After Effects because there's 700 other settings for color correction and I don't need 699 of them.
Yeah.
Do a motion graphic tool. Purely that. Tons of money. I'm just giving the industry so many ideas now.
Yeah,
You're all welcome.
This is it. I think it's that classic example of, at the minute, we are stuck in a world of two extremes when it comes to that stuff. There is the world of Vyond and Toonly, and there are differences between everything in that world, but they're all of an ilk, of a type. And then you have the world of After Effects and Scientific Studios and all this other software, which isn't necessarily hugely expensive, but has a colossal learning curve. It's professional animation software. There is a huge gap in the middle for our industry where we don't necessarily need our hands held 100%, but we are not professional animators. We need some middle ground.
Do you need professionalism and credibility without that being your field, without needing to get a job in that later?
This is it. Because animation can be a wonderful tool when deployed in the right way, at the right time, and to the right audience. And that third point I actually think is the trickiest, because sometimes the audiences you think will be receptive to it are not.
No.
It often gets put in, oh, it's a younger person's thing. It's not been my experience. You know, and it's interesting that it's a younger person's thing. It's always an age group, not a generation. And I think people forget that, like my generation, for instance, we love cartoons. We grew up watching cartoons, we read comic books, we watch cartoons on the telly, still love cartoons now. My younger members of my family, 10, 15 years younger than me, did not grow up with that. Comic books weren't a thing for them. Saturday morning TV was live action, not cartoon for them. So they don't have that same kind of, hey, it's a cartoon, this is a bit different. The first time they really came across cartoons, other than in some films, which aren't hugely popular these days anyway, was work-based cartoon learning, i.e. Vyond, Toonly, etc.
Devlin, wow, we just got ourselves a whole bunch of, we'll just call them celebs, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. This is...
So I got a thought for you, actually.
Go for it.
And I'm spitballing this. I just want to see what you think. So when it comes to the animation and the respect for animation, the acknowledgement, and is this worth it? Is this good? Is it younger? I wonder if it has, I'm again theorizing, if it's a respect for the training in general. And here's what I mean by that. Where do we normally see these kind of animations? In like HR training and the stuff that's like throwaway training. That you have to do, that nobody really wants to do. It's just stuff that you have to just take. Because now that I'm thinking about all the times that I took videos, or all the times that I took training, I'm thinking about the times where I saw animation. And the two big ones where I saw animation were HR videos for like compliance and retail training videos for like the young generation. This is your first job, and let's spell this out in crayon. As it gets into leadership and technical and these other things that are kind of beyond entry level, that starts to go away. And now I'm thinking about my career, kind of looked down on. I wonder if there's a correlation there. I'm really curious. I might do a poll. That's a poll question.
Oh, yeah. Oh, blimey, we've got Joe Suarez as well. It is everyone joining us today. My goodness.
Hey!
This is it.
Hi, guys.
That's I feel like we are vastly underqualified to continue speaking. We'll go away if you would like to take over.
Right. I feel like we need to go to a conference that has a liquor license in the venue, and then we just do an ID update in real time, live in front of a studio audience with beer in hand.
Is that just so people can see us be booed?
Yes.
And as long as we're at least 2 beers in, just not care.
I have a second one, so I'm ready. as I
Oh,
show
yeah,
like the non-label side.
absolutely. I've got another one sat there. But I'm enjoying this stout at the minute. It's very good. I'm seriously impressed with this. But yeah, I think a big consideration there though is not just animation tends to get rolled out as animation. You want animation, therefore you get this. And we
Okay.
sometimes forget that in every other bit of training we deliver, we kind of use nuance to define the style. So you're right, entry level training does have a certain look and feel to it, right? In a
Mhm.
business. Would you deliver that look and feel to your senior leadership team? No, of course you wouldn't. That would be
Right.
insane. You design something that is suited to that audience. So why don't we do that with animation?
They get a PowerPoint with 60 bullets. That's suited to executive leadership because that's what they keep giving me.
Interesting, isn't it? Probably because that's what they were given, and the person before them got that, and the person before them got that, and the person before them probably got given a binder.
So what you're
S-
telling me is that the higher up you are in the food chain, the more bullets you have to add to your slides.
well, but this is it. I think that that is almost the current reality. But the argument is surely these people at the top, every minute of their time that training absorbs is the most
Right.
expensive minute of training on a per person basis in the business. So
Yeah,
you
we don't
want to
need to
make
waste time
sure.
just doing hi.
Exactly, and that's so much the problem with a lot of animated learning content, is that it invests huge time in doing the meet so and so and all the really kind of, oh my god, get to the what do you want me to do? What do
Right.
I need to do to be better at my job? Cut to that point. And you look at things like the popularity now of Masterclass, the video platform.
Mhm.
Um, every video pretty much is the person delivering the masterclass sat in a chair talking to the camera. That's it.
Yeah.
No
I don't complain
cut.
except for this second. The first and second class, every single time is they establish credibility and they just spend a half hour telling you about their career.
It's, this
And I
is it.
skip that.
Yeah, because you don't necessarily need it, right? But that's the other thing. Everything else is broken down into like a 5 minute video, a 3 minute video,
Mhm.
maybe there's a 10 minute video. I just did the Aaron Sorkin one for screenwriting.
Oh, that one's so good.
Fascinating.
So
All these
good.
short videos and then these recorded group like writing room sessions.
He's such a prude too, but like
I,
you want to listen to him.
I
He's like
he's
Gordon
fantastic.
Ramsay. Like I know you're a dick, but you're good.
This is it. I just I mean, it was just the prime example of this is pitched at. They've said this is aimed at people who want to invest in specific areas of development, and they're willing to sign up and pay because it's not a cheap platform. They're willing to
Hmm.
sign up and pay, so they will bring their own engagement. So they don't faff around with it. They just say, "Here's the content."
Well,
Hit.
that's when oh, I hate this one too. I hate when the price is the engagement model. I spent
Okay.
99 or I spent $129 a year. So that's what's going to get people to go is they spent $129 a
I
year.
see. Yeah. Okay.
And I
Yeah.
hate that. I hate that type of advertising. I hate that assumption of the market. Um,
Doesn't
and it's
work
one of
with the
those things like
gyms.
that's like a Udemy, that's like LinkedIn Learning.
Yeah.
Where you're like, if you want to pay a subscription for things, that subscription is supposed to the fee is supposed to be the driver. And it's
Yeah.
not. It just, it
No.
just is
I
oh,
feel.
frustrating.
And interestingly, I feel like this is the big difference between something like Masterclass and, for instance, LinkedIn Learning. Now, there's some great stuff on LinkedIn Learning, but unfortunately, 90% of the platform is grade A garbage. Um,
Yeah.
so I certainly have tried to do things on there, but terrible flapping about in videos and people who just look incredibly uncomfortable delivering their own course content is not good. Whereas again, a platform like Masterclass, I feel it invested so heavily in the look. Here's an expert. It's going to be good quality video. There's going to be no sound issues, but they are just going to talk to you in each video. That's it. That's all there
Yeah.
is. And they're not going to, they're not going to overcomplicate things. They're not going to, create scenarios to test your development along. They're going to deliver the content to you as quickly and succinctly as possible.
Yeah.
Um,
It's up to you to figure out if you can make it effective or not.
Exactly. And I feel for that senior leadership or that growing professional stage, that's what you need. You don't need the step by step. And whether that's animated, real video, whatever, that to me is why animation gets the bad rap it does. It could be a good tool in any given situation, so long as you take into account the content, the context, the audience. Same as every tool, right? Anything can be the right tool. You've just got to make sure it balances right with the audience and the content and the context.
Yeah, we talked
Um,
about this a little bit last month when we were talking
mm,
about acquisitions and whatnot of, if you're a venture capitalist. So, by the way, if you missed the last episode, one of the things we touched up heavily on was the number of acquisitions. Maybe it was last month,
mm,
in the last couple months. There have been a lot of massive acquisitions done by venture capitalist companies. And how do you take that? How do you turn that purchase into immediate revenue? And I'm kind of looking at what you just said and be like, that's how. You sell you sell the farm and assume that people are going to take their buying of the farm as enough incentive to teach them how to use it.
yeah.
Like Udemy. Udemy was a great example where I think they had they changed their model up because they noticed that of the people who did subscriptions, like 70 or 80% of people didn't actually finish a single course. So they changed their model. But if I'm a VC, that's the perfect model. That's great. I get your money.
Yeah.
And even better, and I hate this, but as a marketer, as a marketing thing, after the year is up and you, the customer, have acknowledged that you didn't do shit with that. My focus isn't to sell you about the great value that you got, because no subscription ever teaches you the value that you got out of your subscription. It teaches you how much further you can go next time, which if you reflect on the year and said, I went nowhere, getting a marketing campaign that says, here's how much further you can go. Well, if your bar is down here anyway, it's great marketing. You're going to sign up for another year and saying, this year's the one. This is the year that I do that. And it never is.
No.
That's why I had a piano for 3 years. I kept saying that. I kept telling myself. And actually, funny story about that. I actually also spent like $150 on a kind of a DVD how to play piano set, thinking that $150 better than the $20 that I could have spent on something worse. I spent $150. I'm gonna get use out of that. And you don't. Michael, dead on, Mike. It's the gym membership. I committed to a year and I got nothing out of it. So the bar is low, but now you're going to sell me on how much further I can go from nothing.
This is it. It's a bit like someone trying to sell someone like me a gym membership. First of all, it's not going to happen. Stop wasting your time. But if you're going to anyway, it's very easy to say, just imagine how much healthier you could be if you went to the gym. Of course, the actual argument would be, can you imagine how many more mince pies you could eat without getting less healthy if you went to the gym?
Give me a
tomorrow,
development plan.
right?
Yeah, give me a personal training plan that includes beer at the end. We'll talk.
Love it. This is it. We've got
LinkedIn learning event
there.
I'm so bad at events. This is such your area. I need to do more conferences and jump on more of these things.
So I'm not going to lie. I tuned in for the first bit and then got the same impression I always get from anything LinkedIn Learning related. Got incredibly bored and shut it down. They're just, I don't know, they have an incredible ability to find the least charismatic presenters in the world, in my humble opinion. I don't claim to be like a grade A TV host or anything, but when I go to events, I want people to capture me with an idea of how they're going to add value. Less just about bigging up how technically clever they are. I think LinkedIn Learning as a whole has a lot of potential, but until they purge they migrated everything across from, what was that old learning platform called before LinkedIn bought it?
Lynda.
There we go.
Lynda.com.
Yeah, they migrated all that really top quality content.
I love Lynda.com.
Yeah. I don't. I didn't. I'm not gonna lie.
I did. Well, it's because I'm an idiot. So lynda.com was really like, I can find a thing and then the people gave me stuff to work with. I'm stupid. So Lynda worked great.
I don't think it's stupid. I think everyone wants something different, though, right?
Yeah, that's how my mom put that too. No, I'm kidding.
You're a very special boy, Joe.
I'm a very special person. No, my honestly, my research into the industry specifically of doing conferences and events, I'm still very young at this. So I fell into this and I've been really trying to find my footing, honestly, for the last decade. And it wasn't until about 3 years ago that I was like, hey, I've got a place. But I'm still now kind of figuring out, I was like, in the case of conferences and technology and speaking, all that stuff, I'm still trying to figure it all out. So that's why I go to Tom for, hey, you went to a conference and you see how it affects everything, because he is much more well versed. At least, sorry, let me rephrase that to something that Tom will respect. He can fake being much more well versed, much better than I can.
There we go. It's all brutal honesty here on IDT. We ain't got a clue what we're doing, but we can make it look good sometimes.
By the way, everyone, I'm on beer number 2. That's a Dos Perros Ale from Nashville, Tennessee, which has a surprisingly good beer scene.
And that tells me that I have been talking far too much, because I've still got like half mine left.
No, I just really needed a drink today. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I really needed drinks today. It's also barrel age day at my favorite brewery in Loveland, so I'm in trouble.
Oh, well, there you go. That's the evening dealt with for you anyway.
So anyway, let's wrap all this aspect of things together, because we actually have more news to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
This whole thing started about, holy crap, we have Captivate news.
Yeah.
And it turned into, well, what would we love to see? And our usual conversation of, man, we really wish the industry would make such a simple shift. And that's what we want.
In short, data, good. Data should drive everything, and engagement, not the end goal. Stop it.
Right? And Morgan's spot on, by the way. I appreciate you. For tech learning, it's all YouTube.
Yeah. I think if you were going to it for software, it's funny, I never really used it as a platform to learn software, but it would be ideal for that. You're right, but yeah, YouTube totally stole that market. And
2 for 2
it for free. Nice.
Also good. Also good warm.
Excellent.
Oh, my wife's gonna be excited.
So yeah,
we ran out of beer because we went to Scotland. We didn't get any more beer, so we're like, we're gonna hold on this, and now we're like, oh, well, now we don't have any beer in the house. So, well, I'm glad that we have more.
Indeed. So I'm super organized. I wrote a list of topics for today.
Holy crap!
Which you see, Joey's surprised that Tom came to this evening with topics in mind.
We never have a list. We just have, here's what we found. We'll get to it eventually. Okay, so you have the list. I have beer.
Yeah, I'm actually going to jump in and do a bit of shameless pitching here, because those of you who have seen the video on the YouTube channel, on LinkedIn and whatnot, know that the second IDTX event is happening.
Speaking of practical learning and what we would like to see from the industry, guys, IDTX 1 was phenomenal.
Yeah, it went okay. There was some technical whoopses. We're moving platforms this time to avoid any of those. And I'm working a little bit harder to organise it in the background with a bit more time this time. So we're holding it in February, February the 10th, 11th and 12th. We're going for a 3-day event this time. Which is huge, obviously. The major reason for that, though, as I said in the launch video, is not actually to cram in more speakers. It's to allow more time for networking, chatting, sharing work. This time round, we're having a more interactive networking area. We're having an expo hall. That is not just going to be people selling you junk you don't need. The idea of the expo hall, can you tell I've already had a beer? is actually to get loads of people to come in and share pieces of their work. Whether it's their portfolio, something from their job that they're really proud of, a pet project they're working on, a book they're writing, really just to give people the opportunity to share what they're doing, but maybe they don't want to run like a talk session, as it were, or a workshop about it.
You mean you're not going to sell the coaching habit, say less, ask more, and change the way you lead forever with a small advertisement for the only thing that this book cares about? I have 3 copies of these because they kept handing them to me.
I mean, that's the sign of a top quality book, isn't it? When people are just giving you multiple copies.
It's a Wall Street Journal bestseller, apparently, which I find to be bullshit given how many copies they gave away.
I mean, technically, those copies were still bought by someone. Oh, dear. That's always a good sign, isn't it?
Next episode, we're going to talk about semantics. We're going to talk about little details that catch everyone.
Absolutely.
I have so many stupid... The book market sucks.
Yeah,
I have so many of these things.
But that'll be fixed because, of course, our good friend Kara is writing a book as we speak, which is very exciting.
The thing is I like Kara. I know she's a badass. Same with Devlin. Same with many of the people who come in. Like, because the thing that I appreciate about that group is that they put a lot more of their time and effort into establishing credibility before they started trying to monetize it. Yeah. And that's like the number one sell for me. Like, Kara has busted her butt, and I got great interviews and I got great opportunities from all of her job hunts and whatnot. Devlin, I've watched some of your graphic design stuff. I like a lot of it, but you and I are going to have some words on some things as a graphic designer myself. But they put a lot of this stuff out for free, and there's no inkling that there is a business model tied to that. And they do it for months and years, and it just shows passion. This frustrates me, and it's what frustrates me about conferences. Yeah. I got a quick win. Actually, let's just throw it out there. The whole thing about Kara's academies and online I'm glad you're still watching, Devlin. The whole ID Academy and anybody can throw a course out there and call it a course, and then try to monetize that. Insane. I love finding people who put the effort and energy, Devlin, that includes you as well, into showing their passion before anything else. I am happy to support you monetarily. I am poor. I need a few months, and then I will be happily to support you monetarily.
And this is it. And that was, we discussed it the first time around before it kind of went public, but that was the big driver behind IDTX. Because not gonna lie, this time I kind of went back and forth around sponsors and whether or not to seek some out, to get people involved. And in the end, it just didn't feel like a good idea. The whole point of the event is that you're not turning up and getting sold to. You're not turning up and handing over money. You know, if you want to support it, this is it. If you want to support it, you can. There's the Patreon, there's the Buy Me a Beer, there's the store. However, I'm going to be honest, none of those in fact, all those revenues added together do not even come close to covering the cost of running an online conference, not even remotely. It's not a profitable enterprise, as anyone here who runs on regular online events knows. And it's not about being a profitable enterprise. Sometimes it's just about adding value. And that is so often the things that a lot of these people out there, whether they've got an academy, whether they've got whatever they're flogging this week, they've never done that.
It's not some life coach funnel. Nobody has ever said, hey, thanks for making it all the way through this video that ended at a very specific point where you didn't get anything out of it. For more on this, and then you enter the life coaching funnel. God love those who actually create a video with a conclusion, not a trailer.
This is it. But this is what I was really excited about with IDTX anyway.
Yes.
Because I shared these on Twitter today because I was super excited. Phil Lord David, who actually ran a really good visual design session at the first IDTX, and I work with loads and we've been friends for years, has created some really awesome one-off event t-shirts. Let me show them on screen now. So this is the first one.
So cool.
This is it. It's real cool. Let's Get Practical, IDTX 2022. And then my personal favourite. And we can't finish this second design until we've confirmed all the speakers, but check this out. I loved this design when he sent it through to me.
How grunge. I love it. That's indie rock right there.
I couldn't stop smiling when I got these through.
That's killer.
Really excitingly as well, we actually have our first 9 people who have sort of requested speaking slots already. And
I need to get on you for that because I want to talk about data.
10. There we go.
10.
That
was
easy.
I didn't know. Mike, I didn't know you were a musician. That's awesome. No, I love that. But I'm still missing, hey, baby, what's your learning style?
I know. I know. We will at some point. I will get something done. There are so many. Do you know what? There is always so much planned at the end of this. There is just the list of stuff that comes out of these shows and general chats. It's like, I'll do that next week. Never happens. Do you remember when I sat here last month and said there's a whole series of videos launching about voiceovers? Since then, I have launched 4 videos. Not one of them has spoken about voiceover.
Nice.
That series is sat in raw recording format, awaiting some form of editing.
I like your style. Like, give me that shirt.
But yeah, I thought they were really cool. Actually, Phil did a phenomenal job on those.
Cool. I love that second one. Yeah, I'm with Mike. I want that second one on body.
So yeah, we will sort those out at some point once I've got all the speakers' names. But yeah, no, really excitingly, again, the speakers, we've got people who are applying as first-time speakers that have never spoken at an event before.
We've got me last time.
There we go. Look, we've got people who are, you know, they're big names in the industry, so they will bring a bit of cachet with them. We've got people who are just kind of in the middle, where they've spoken a little bit before or not much before, or all these kind of things, but all doing really different stuff. Everything from, you know, looking at old models and how do we make them practical, through to something about data. We've got stuff coming in about technology. It's just really exciting for it to be happening again, and that people do want to attend, and that this time there will be enough tickets for people to be able to attend if they want to. That was an unforeseen issue in version 1, was running out of tickets, and then on the day no one actually being able to access the platform. So even though we had all the tickets,
yeah, I watched
no
a few
one could
things
get in. It was not great. So fixed this time, we're using Hopin rather than AirMeet. So
that's what it was. AirMeet.
Yes.
Me and them have fix your mobile app.
Well, yeah, their CEO kind of messaged me or tweeted at me. I don't really get Twitter. People might have seen it, people might not. I don't know what's a message and what's a tweet, to be honest. It confuses me as a platform.
Did he yell at you for anger?
No. He offered to help and solve all these problems, but the core issues still kind of remain that we streamed all that stuff to YouTube, and then YouTube nearly blocked the channel because of it, because they're not using a trusted API to stream from.
That's like 101.
This is it. And at first I was very much on the kind of, oh, you know, it's cool. Well, you know, it must be a YouTube problem. And YouTube were just like, nope, everyone else manages it. It's like, oh, yeah. Okay. This is I don't want to say it's lazy development, because I couldn't do it better, so I don't know. But it does seem like if you're going to offer someone the option to stream from your platform to YouTube, you should make sure that works properly. Without getting,
I feel like if I'm entrusting you, to do something, there are elementary things that kind of get away from the I couldn't do it better. Yeah. I stopped using that as an excuse. Like, I came to you because I expect you to get things. And honestly, me, the dumb idiot, had this as one of my first questions. and how wasn't it yours? Because it seems archaic and basic.
This
So
is it.
I stopped I stopped saying that you could do it better. So who the hell am I to complain?
Yeah,
That's like with training. It's like
indeed.
I could make a PowerPoint. So like, no, you want to talk about my world? Let's really, like, if you trust me to train and make things effective, yeah, you could probably make a PowerPoint better. But then you start asking the basic questions and realize you don't have answers, and I do.
But that's
Too bad.
Yeah, that's just an interesting thing there, though. I always think it's quite interesting. 'Cause I had this discussion earlier this month about who's best placed to judge the effectiveness of some kind of training. And we're having a chat about how it needs to be, peer reviewed amongst IDs. It needs to go to learning people within the business. It needs to go to all these departments.
As long as
I'm
it's not a third-party
increasing.
contractor.
Well, yes. But I'm increasingly of the opinion that the only person that's actually going to judge it on real criteria, i.e., can I do something I couldn't do before, or can I do something better than I could before, are the end users. Because increasingly I find when work gets put in front of an instructional designer or a graphic designer or a learning experience designer, they'll offer useful feedback, of course they will, but some of that will be shaped by their approach to a problem that is just different to yours. It may not be better, it may just be different. Prime example, you put it in front of one ID and they go, oh, this is going to be video. You put it in front of the next person who says it's going to be animation. You put it in front of the next person who says it's going to be a podcast. You put it in front of the next person who's going to create an interactive PDF. All of which could be perfectly effective, none are necessarily better than the other. Whereas you put those in front of a learner and they don't actually care about the modality so much, they're going to tell you whether or not they can do something different or do something better.
See, I'm really proud of that statement. As I flicker the camera again, because again, not sponsored by Logitech, everybody. Because I remember my speech at IDTX, and one of the things I'm really focused on is learners don't know your methodologies and they don't care. They don't know Bloom's, they don't know the 60s, they don't know any of the things that drive how you get to where you get to. But if you hold them to the standard that they do know it and they followed it, you're going to fall apart. There's going to be such a gap there that it's not going to matter anymore. And at the end of the day, anybody who is comparing the two pieces of feedback and the two reactions, they're going to look at the learner because they're the ones who actually needed to gain something from this.
Yeah.
I don't care how much you understood, created, anything along those lines. I don't care what level of Bloom's taxonomy's bullshit pyramid that we created on that's not a pyramid somebody lands on. At the end of the day, they don't care that they were there. Nobody comes at me and says, thank you for creating a game off of this. This really helped me understand this training more. This really helped me apply and analyze and remember and create and all that. That's not a thing.
No.
That just isn't a thing with learners. And it's so swear word pretentious. And we got to get off of it.
And I think this is it, especially in workplace learning. Like, I can, to an extent, I can see why some higher education educators argue that that's not the case, because they live and work in an environment where understanding and the ability to synthesize ideas, etc., is actually the purpose of what they're doing.
For education, sure.
Yeah, in the workplace, to me, it's always been that one question. Can I do something I couldn't do before? Can I do something better? Or can I do something better? That's it. There is a business, no matter what it says, could not give a crap whether someone has a deep understanding of the law behind the Data Protection Act. They do not care if you have an emotional attachment to providing amazing customer service. What they care about is, can you do your job efficiently and effectively?
And on the flip side of that, no educator, no college gives a shit on, can you be effective with what you learn here and can you apply that in practice? Because that's not their job. That's not their problem. If you learn something and fail with it, that's not the fault of the college.
Yeah, that's
And as
really
somebody who went to
interesting.
art school at the Art Institute, which went defunct because it sucked, I have so many problems with that.
Yeah,
But
I think
there's no way around it. It's not like there's any manpower to follow someone throughout their career and say, "Oh yeah, I know the class that you took that got you that job." That's not a
yeah.
thing.
No, this is it's tricky. But I would say, like, I had an interesting conversation with Katie Delvagno, who's it was on the Ideas podcast earlier in the week, actually at the start of the week,
I
ahead of
like
the
that one.
late launch. Yeah,
I do
she's
listen to your podcasts.
in higher ed, and she's doing exactly that. She's looking at how she can utilize the kind of, for want of a better term, corporate learning approach in
Mhm.
that setting, and say, because she teaches public speaking, which I
Oh,
found fascinating, as it's like a required thing at the colleges to do it with
yeah, we
whatever
do
you're
that.
doing. That doesn't exist in the UK. It really should.
Oh, that
It's
answers so many
phenomenal.
questions.
Yeah, exactly. This is if you happen to go down like the creative or performing arts route, obviously you get into it a bit more.
Right.
But if you don't, which the vast majority of people don't, and those of us who do get kind of snide remarks about you should learn a proper subject. Just look at me now
I went to
with
art school. You're preaching to the choir when it comes to a proper subject.
this is it. Proper subjects. Look at me now with 5 people watching me on YouTube. That's
And one of them's
but
me.
this is it.
So I can monitor chat.
But most importantly in that, she's really looking at how she can move away from models and textbooks and just doing because it's all based around the idea of speeches. Like I
Mhm.
said, who in her class is going to be in a position to deliver a speech? It's quite a
Right.
specific thing, right? So instead, the exams are still going to be like that. The big events are still going to be like that. But in between, they do things about how to have a challenging conversation with your boss, how to present in a job interview, because that's public speaking.
Yeah.
How do you challenge someone on something in a public space? How do you debate something with someone in a civil way? And that's so much more valuable than theoretically understanding the structure of a good speech and the delivery of a good speech.
So I have a story
Um,
for you.
Go for it.
Um, and this is all right. So this is actually gonna be one of those moments that I kind of rewatch. Because it is literally the biggest moment of my life. I was a really shy kid. I was shy as hell. Didn't talk, didn't want to get involved, didn't want to get engaged in anything. And it has everything to do with this topic and how I respect this topic. Um, so when I was in college, I went to school for multimedia web design before I realized that if you're looking for multimedia and web design, you just hire a graphic designer anyway. And then I switched over to graphic design. That's not actually a joke. That's actually how it worked. Um, so I went to school for graphic design. It's what I have my degree in. But I was really shy and I couldn't put myself out there. And as a graphic designer, you don't have to. You hide behind a screen, you hide behind whatever, and you just do art and you send it out in the world. And you hope that people like it and people give you money for it. One of the projects that I had a class on marketing, and it's actually what got me really interested in marketing. And we had to do a presentation for a client, a client, because that's what you do in college, is a fake client, a use case, to use a word that we all know. But as a shy kid who just hated talking, hated coming out there and putting myself out there and any knowledge and any expertise, I didn't say a word. So when it came time to assign roles for a project for our clients, I got the presentation because I was too shy to say, do not make me the presenter. So everyone else took the jobs that did not require them to be the presenter. So as the last one who spoke, I was the presenter. The client for this project was we got to I don't think you guys have Celestial Seasonings out there in the UK. Celestial Seasonings in America is a big tea brand. And they have two big things that go for them. One, incredible variety. But two, the other thing that they did was art. So every one of their boxes had a unique commissioned painting that gave the idea of the tea. So we had like sleepy time tea, it puts you to sleep and whatever. And they commissioned somebody to paint that, and they painted a teddy bear and all of his Winnie the Pooh, like nighttime getting ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
Anyway, those are the two things. So they're massive out here. But that was our client. And instead of making that simply the imaginary use case of let's pretend that you're working for Celestial Seasonings, the teacher actually got in touch with the creative marketing, the marketing director and creative director, and said that this isn't some fake little project that you get to do in a safe space. This is one that you present in front of them. So now there are stakes. And I think that's what did it. It's not the effectiveness and the skill set, it's the stakes for me in college. So me in the shy sense that I was, we go through all of our things. We come up with we had to create a tea line for the Latino market. So, down in Mexico, we're doing teas for them. We have to make the packaging and then present to Celestial Seasonings why we did what we did. And I had to explain it. And that shy me looked at those stakes and says, this is too cool to try to not ace. Like, how cool would it be for the game designers who go to college for like video game design to actually go to BioWare to work with these big game companies instead of let's pretend that you're making a game for some small thing that we've made up in this room. And just like that, I became much more interested and much more invested in the project. And fun fact, and this is why this is so important and special to me, that shy kid that would not be here, we wouldn't be talking. You'd be too much for me. Not kidding. I'm actually not kidding. You're the extrovert in this, the outgoing. It died in that room. The presentation that I had, the first 10 minutes were a disaster. I failed so miserably. I was an idiot. I didn't know what I was saying, and I fumbled around, and then I did some weird self-deprecating joke that just the room just laughed their asses off at, and then something snapped, and I was like, I think I've got this. And then all the excitement for being in the room with Celestial Seasonings, doing a thing that I did for them, just kicked in, and we crushed the hell out of it. And I'm really proud of that moment because I became much more extroverted. I became much more confident in myself. I can pinpoint the one most effective learning experience of my entire life, and it's taking things away from the classroom and putting them not just in a practical environment, but one where there's stakes, one where there's actually somebody in the industry who I'm excited to talk to, looking at what I'm doing and saying, you got it. And that long ass story is directly connected with what you just talked about of like, how do we find a better way, different way to learn, of like, get me invested in a really interesting way. And that's why I'm here. And it's why I have this job. And it's why I love that moment. I love that. I don't tell that story too often. So that was 10 minutes. I'm gonna shut up.
That's fine. No, I was gonna say it's kind of a prime example when people say, how do you make project-based work or learning viable in the workplace? It's a prime example of how you can do that. If you're onboarding a group of new people, give them a project to do and give them some real world requirement for it, rather than making it totally theoretical. We worry sometimes too much about the safe space for learning, and they need to exist in certain circumstances. Of course they do. Otherwise, we're in the world of just jump on the phones, what could go wrong, followed by a huge spike in complaints, right? But yeah, I think both, I mean, definitely in the education world, we need more of that. But in the workplace, there's also not enough of that. Not necessarily learning on the job, but being allowed to do the job in a somewhat mock environment to learn, being given challenges to just figure out. So often in onboarding and in induction and in job role training, everything's so prescriptive, and then 6 months down the line we're asking, why are our people unable to problem solve? Why are our people unable to adapt? It's like, because you trained them to be bad at those things.
Yeah,
It's,
and you've trained them in a safe space that isn't realistic,
yeah,
where the person who is educating you is on the same page as you, and that never happens.
this is it.
And you half the battle of this job, of honestly any creative job, as somebody who's worked way more creative jobs than I care to count, half the battle is making sure that your definition of creativity is the same as theirs. I've always told myself that if I ever taught a class someday on marketing, or education, or I would love to be a teacher someday, but I also want to own a brewery card game shop. My retirement plans are weird. But if I ever taught a class, the first thing I would do is I would partner with real world companies, big ones: Nike, eBay, PayPal, Southwest, American Airlines, Disney, Marvel. Pick one and say, I want to work with somebody where we create a project where you're in the room. And I think it'd be killer. I think it would be amazing. I think that the fact that if I'm a student in that room saying, I'm not just pretending I'm doing something for Disney, I'm not just making a Mickey Mouse thing, but they're watching me.
Absolutely.
It's like scouting for any sport. There are scouts in the audience, and I am instantly on my A game. I am instantly more invested in anything that I'm learning, anything that I'm applying. I want that in this industry.
Yeah, I think that would be a huge shift, but both in the educational and the workplace world, I think it's something that's got to happen, right? It's and I think maybe it's I know we've still got loads of tech stuff and resources to go today, so we shan't go into that. Maybe next time we should totally do a conversation about introversion, extroversion.
Oh my god, and learning? Absolutely.
Yeah, and in careers in learning, because I see loads of it online, and it's bugging me at the moment, because we seem to be going backwards. Increasingly, I'm seeing introversion spoken about as if it's some kind of disability that needs to be overcome, and you need to become more extroverted to be successful. I would
I don't
argue
agree with
that
that.
this is it. There are big issues with it, but it's also a big topic. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll touch on it in another video. Otherwise, we will be here all night, won't we?
Yeah.
But
Man, no, I gotta shut up because I can go. I got thoughts.
there you go.
Shut up.
We will make that our discussion in the next chat, or maybe we'll do something beforehand. I don't know. But we'll definitely do like maybe a special on it, because I think it's
You've got season 2 of IDT.
Oh yeah,
Your
we got
podcast?
season 2. Yeah, we got season 2 of the Ideas podcast. Maybe we could do it on there. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
We'll do like kind of a discussion thing. Absolutely. But so well, yeah, there we are, guys. If you're not already, I'll do the plug. Subscribe to the channel now to see what we think about that. You probably already know.
Please do. The
most of
Ideas
you probably
podcast
already
is
agree.
awesome. I've kind of stopped with training as blank, just because I'm so focused on the other stuff I'm doing for my hobby stuff. But so I live vicariously through Tom.
But hey, Decks and Drafts. You should totally go and subscribe to Decks and Drafts.
Oh, you have my coaster. I did not even.
Of course, I have the coaster. It has pride of place on my desk for my beer glass, which is always on my desk.
These turned out amazing, by the way. That's some
awesome
thickness there.
That's always the issue, especially with like bar mat style ones like that. Is that they're so flimsy, and so you put a wet glass on them, and that's it. They're ruined forever.
Yeah.
This has stood up to like a week of solid use. Hot drinks, cold drinks, at least one yogurt pot at lunchtime. It's done a flipping good job.
Love it.
Yeah, it's a top quality bit of kit, that.
Yeah, 70 cents a pop.
That's not bad at all. Not bad at all. But yeah. So if you like your card games and your marketing stuff, head over to Decks and Drafts and subscribe to Joey's channel. It's always good fun. Craig, I couldn't agree with you more. Mediocre extroverts run over introverts, I think. Yep, that I would agree with that. There's kind of we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. We will be here for hours. Let's let's move on to yeah, did that. Spoke about IDTX. Let's talk about tech updates. We kind of already touched on Captivate, but Joey, what have you got for Storyline?
We teased this a little bit earlier with Storyline as far as the actual stuff. So updates in September, they're really pushing 360, and I'm a little worried they're pushing it too far. And the thing is, it's not even interesting. Alt text. There you go. How this wasn't a thing to begin with blows my mind.
Yes.
I'm a little struggling. So alt text. The concept of alt text is if the thing doesn't load, you have alternative text so you can get a general understanding. If you're in VR, how's your alt text experience? If things can't load in VR, I don't think alt text saves your experience. I don't think somebody says, oh, I was going to think that this was functional, and thank God this back button that didn't load says back button in the alt text. I think you're screwed.
Yeah, and I think I think it's more aimed at those accessing it on like a desktop view. Because alt text then is potentially useful. And I think going with as well, there is the opportunity to embed other things into that 3D environment. So whilst you're still in it, for instance, you could pop out some text and an image in a pop-up, and it means you can still have alt text on that image within the 360-degree environment.
Yeah.
So it does have value. I think my immediate question was, why was that not included in the original launch? Like, for a company
Archaic.
that's supposedly such a strong commitment to accessibility within their tool, you know. But at least
they
it's
add
there
a
now.
new. All right. So adding to it, there's more default slides that nobody uses. Yay. You can manage scoring for quiz banks with branching now, which is pretty cool. So if your quiz bank branches, you can actually manage the scoring instead of whatever the default is of, here's only the viewed questions. You can actually, if you don't even see those questions, because they're in a different branch, you can deal with that a little bit better. So huzzah. And that's about it. We talked about this earlier, but for those who came in late, because at least 3 people did, because of Captivate's updates saying that they had a new version coming out, I'm really thinking that we're going to see some interesting things from Storyline pop in. I wouldn't be surprised if they planned it in this quarter of what does the development for Q1 2022 look like, and try to get ahead of the things that Captivate's doing. Here's the issue. Here's the thing that Storyline needs to be terrified of, is that if Captivate becomes an equal with Storyline, all they have to do is become an equal to Storyline. Captivate wins because of Mac support. And Storyline needs to be terrified of that, especially because you've got way too many people in Silicon Valley still using Macs. You also have the opportunity of perpetual licensing that Captivate has. And even without perpetual licensing, Captivate's $33 a month. They win every single thing. They win in every single line item you can win outside of people who know this job, who also know how to use the tool, which is an easy thing to fix. Storyline should be afraid right now, and I expect that they are planning, and I expect Q1 to be a really interesting year. But in the meantime, yay, let's get ahead of this whole VR thing that's going to fail. Go them. I hope for Storyline's sake that they learn and they don't get into something that's a fad, like mobile learning was a fad, gamification. I'm sorry, I'm calling it a fad. I am. Making it such a big piece of the pie. I think it's a fad. Storyline needs to fix some basic user interface things. I hope they do that. They're not going to, because they're terrified of whatever Captivate's going to come up and do. And they're going to try to say, here's how we're ahead of the game. And they're going to fail miserably.
See, I think the danger is that they do nothing. I think the danger is that they wait to see what Captivate does, and then they scramble to try and catch up. Because we've seen this, in every other bit of software. We've seen it in computer hardware. We've seen it in cars. We've seen it in pretty much anything, right? If you're the
Mhm.
market leader, you don't innovate until someone overtakes you. You look at the likes of Intel and AMD. I always use this comparison because weirdly they always remind me of the same thing. But you look at Intel. Intel was on top for so many years. So what did it do? It sat there. Literally sat there and did nothing for the better part of a decade. Minimal generational improvement. They got rid of their usual tick-tock between node shrink and improvement, and just kind of sat on the same node for about 4 or 5 generations of processor. Suddenly along came AMD and went, oh, you're just sat there, are you? Cool, well, we may have been behind, but we've been innovating, and look what we've come up with in the labs. And what people forget in all innovation is that if someone's come out and suddenly they've leapfrogged you, they haven't done that in the last 2 or 3 years. They've done it over the past 5 or 6 years. So you're not 1 or 2 years behind them. You're not one release behind them. You're potentially half a decade behind them in terms of development. And I suspect that whilst we've been making jokes about Adobe doing nothing with Captivate, and Captivate's never got an update, Captivate's so out of touch, in the background, I suspect some very clever people have been doing an awful lot of work.
Yeah. Okay, so Devlin's on this. Ever talk about how Articulate raised 1.5 on a 3.75 billion valuation? You know what they're going to do with all that cash? Nothing. They're going to wait. Storyline update I'm most excited about, built-in custom X API statement.
Yes. It's...
Yeah.
When I'm excited about it from I love the technology perspective. I'm not excited about it in that I know a lot of clients look at storyline updates and then insist on implementing things they don't need. Like 360 degree. Do you know how many requests I got for 360 degree nonsense when they launched that tool? It was suddenly every menu. Could this be a 360 degree menu? So, well, could it be? Yes. Is it going to be? Not if you come through me, it's not.
So, Devlin, if I'm Adobe, this is what I do. This I honestly feel, and this is, I'm gonna bring 15 years of marketing credibility to this. This is me speaking as a marketer. If I'm Adobe, what I do is I nail this Captivate launch, but then I offer a package that loops in Creative Cloud elements into it. So I create a subscription that includes Captivate, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, After Effects, Premiere, whatever the essential tools are, but I put it included with Captivate. And then I sell that out. And then you win. Adobe wins this race. Because all I have to do as a company now is just buy one single subscription, and I have half the tools that I already use. Because anybody who uses Storyline knows that they're using Photoshop or InDesign or Illustrator anyway. It's an easy sell to companies and their finance departments.
Counter argument to that point. I'm
Let's
a company that for the past 5 or 6 years have been using Storyline. I can't stop. Or rather, the cost of stopping is huge, because the cost of stopping is redeveloping any content on my platform that may need incremental updates, which in most businesses is like all of it. The cost is actually quite big to move from one platform to another. Not just in terms of that, but you know
what I do from there?
Yep.
Here's how I would follow that up. And you're not going to win it with Storyline, but you're going to win it with Rise. Because all Rise is an HTML5 file. It's a glorified HTML5 file. So I would create the technology in Captivate to import Rise into a Captivate file, and that's going to cover it.
Okay, yeah.
That's how I would respond to that counter argument. Is I would come up with an import system. Now you can't do it with Storyline because you would need to work with Articulate, and they're not going to. There's too much little back-end bullshit. but you can do it with Rise. And if I can get all of those companies who were too stupid to buy 360 but stay on a Mac and only get it for Rise anyway,
Mac
you've got
users
it.
shouldn't be given authoring tools. Mac users shouldn't be allowed to educate others. They've made such poor choices in technology. We shouldn't trust these people. This is of course a joke. I own a
Yeah.
Mac. It sat there.
So yes, Evelyn. So to catch Evelyn up, since you
Yes.
missed the beginning, at Adobe eLearning, the latest expo, they showed off pictures of a new version of Captivate. And we talked about this a couple months ago, that there have been rumblings that there is a new big version of Captivate coming. That the rumblings a couple months ago were that they put it in front of people who have been developers and e-learning people for a while, and they liked it more than Storyline to an nth degree. So they're going to shake things up.
A lot of it seems to be bringing it in line with the current generation of Adobe products, things like XD. What's the other one? The one that does 3D objects, Fresco, all that kind of thing. So yeah, it genuinely, for the first time in a long while, Captivate could actually be a viable option for those of us that care about the tools that we use.
And all they have to do to sell it is take advantage of what they already know people use, which is the Creative Cloud, and they win. They win so hard. And I don't particularly care that they're going to lose out to the people who've been using Storyline for years, because if 2020 showed us anything, it's that there are way too many people who are not virtual anyway. So they've got a big market.
Oh, but there are still, despite we kind of make a joke out of it, there are still a lot of businesses that are Captivate houses. That's what they use. That is the tool. So they're, even as they stand, they're in no danger. It's a very, it's already a profitable ecosystem for them. You've only got to look at their forums to see they're plenty active. Because Captivate is kind of a good tool. Like, at its core, if you just look at it from a tick box, forget about actually having to try and use it for a minute, and look at what it can do, it's a brilliant tool. I would argue that what it can do is more than what Storyline can do. The issue is all the holes you have to jump through to make it do it. It's
action scripting bullshit from Flash they never got rid of.
Yeah, exactly. This is it. So part of it is literally a case of, if you sort out that user experience for the author, immediately the tool is more viable. A few additional bits of functionality, and actually the custom X API statements is a prime example of, I think whichever major authoring tool adds that in first is going to see a huge market shift towards them, because it is the future. We talk a lot increasingly about data. We spoke about it earlier in this show. That is where that is the kind of data that we need to be gathering. So the first tool that really nails that is going to win people over, because there's going to be loads of us going, everyone should use this, and here we're going to tell that to 3 people. But then there are the people like Devlin, there are the people like Kara, there are the real kind of people with a following online that are going to say that, and everyone's going to go, wham, that's the tool we're going to go for. The industry is going to shift based on that increased understanding that they now have. So
Devlin, we need your help. Kidding. More people listening to you than us.
Hey, what is it, like 2 years ago now? I wrote that stupid blog article that just makes me look like a moron every time I think about it, saying SCORM is dead, long live XAPI. And, well, SCORM is still here.
It needs to be dead.
Because as an industry, we just love the 90s. We refuse to move on.
So the other thing I do if I'm Adobe, because you already have it in place, is you add your CMS. You add a CMS service.
Absolutely.
Because they already have it. They have it with fucking Bridge. They have it with Captivate Prime. They have it with everything they do with the Adobe Cloud already. It's already in place, and Storyline has never had that.
So just on that, Captivate Prime, do you know if that has an LRS included in it?
I don't. I couldn't tell you right now. When I tried it out, it didn't, because they were brand new.
Because that would be, to me, that would be the biggest sign that they're going to put in things like XAPI. as a major play,
Mhm.
because you're exactly right. Storyline has no ecosystem for your work to live in once you've
No,
created it. It's the biggest hole in the articulate product. They've got that whole suite of stuff. I don't know anyone who uses Replay and whatever and Studio.
no.
Um,
Yeah,
I,
I use TechSmith.
yeah, I
Their
think
review is
anyone who
better.
wants to do that stuff uses the TechSmith stuff.
Vimeo is better.
Quite like Vimeo. I like Vimeo. Vimeo's a good tool. Not as good as Frame.io, but Vimeo's all right.
Oh, you need Frame.io.
So I do love me some Frame.io, and that's joining the Adobe world now as well. So
Jeff, great to
yeah,
have
that'll be
you.
interesting.
Because he's got to leave. He's got to run.
Oh, been a pleasure. Thanks very much for joining us. Your insight's always very handy.
We'll chat more, bud. Cheers.
So yeah, I think it's gonna be exciting the next year for updates, but right now it's pretty abysmal. The one that made me laugh in the storyline update was fixed. What was it? The motion path direction options had disappeared.
Oh, yeah. They were missing from path options. Like, okay.
What? Like, I don't claim that everything I create is perfect first time, but that's what testing is for. Like, it's, you know, and I don't have a huge budget for that. I would assume they have a significant UAT budget before they launch a product to people who are paying a substantial sum of money.
If we're going to play that game, course completion triggers stopped working in the classic player.
Yeah.
Text could change color and states after duplicating an object. If there's anything storyline sucks at, it's the management of their objects. Because every single time something gets screwed up with objects.
It's strange in that we've
bad.
got a market leading bit of software that just seems to be very unstable at its core. And
It's like
I
saying
wonder...
Walmart is leading. They are leading, but we all know they suck.
Yeah, but it strikes me as odd that no one has been able to capitalize on the fact that their core product, core functionality is becoming less and less stable as they add more stuff on.
No.
It's different. Yeah, absolutely, Craig. Yeah, it's there's so many weird little things, like it's the course completion and how it's different from exit the course. It's simple stuff like that in storyline that bugs me because there's just no need for it. There's no way that should get through testing and end up in the consumer world. And I say that because I'm a big fan of open source software, so naturally I love Adapt. For those who don't know, Adapt is a totally free open source HTML5 authoring tool, creates fantastic responsive courses. The installation's a bit of a pain, it requires a bit of command line, it's got some prerequisites, etc., but it's really not that complicated. Great tool, really stable code base, and it's stable because it's open source. It's audited by lots of people have input, but then if something goes wrong, people fix it. Bugdobe, indeed. Yeah, bugs and Adobe do go hand in hand as well. At the minute, I have officially given up on Premiere these days. I am now a 100% DaVinci Resolve video editor.
I'm getting more into that. I
started
really like
playing
it.
It's an interesting tool, DaVinci Resolve. I would say it has quite a learning curve to it.
I've done enough video editing.
Yeah.
But on the topic of Bugtoby, there's also Bugtasia.
Yes, of course.
Of course, Camtasia and their latest release of I don't look at this moment proudly because I'm such a TechSmith fan. Because I'm such a Camtasia guy. I think that it's a great learning curve you need to get something out the door. You have an organization where the training team is new or the training program is new, and you need to bust out quality content quickly without thinking too hard about it. I love Camtasia.
But
Fixed a bug that caused some exported MP4s to play back at incorrect sizes. What part of the export process makes you change the size of the video.
Yeah.
Camtasia 2021 has been a disaster since day one, and it makes me really sad because if you go through their release list, which they do like 1 a week and then they skip 2 weeks and then they do like 3 in a week, it's bugs, 1 enhanced, improved error handling when uploading to Panopto with viewer only access. Call that a feature. That's a bug. That's a bug that they fixed.
Yeah.
Tech Smith, you're making me sad. You're making me real sad right now.
And it's interesting because I bought it this year on your recommendation.
I'm not sorry for it because it's more good than bad, but when the bad shows up, it's real stupid.
Yeah. And I must admit, what I've kind of, at the minute, where it sits in my workflow, is that if I quickly need to cut down a video into little bits to then put different bits into different parts of storyline, I open it for that. Because doing it in DaVinci Resolve seems like, you know, carving a chicken with a like chainsaw or something.
I'll take
it's just way too complex for such a simple job. Whereas Camtasia's great for that.
I use it for my videos because it's a quick chop shop. I can do really quick recordings. I can see exactly what I'm doing. I can update in damn near real time. Yeah. I can create little graphics super easy. I know some really interesting tricks with track matting and motion graphics. I've gotten really good at Camtasia, so it can do so much if you can get creative.
And I think that's it. I think it's one of those tools where if you spent a lot of time with it, or if you have a very limited set of tools, it does a lot of broad range of stuff reasonably well. I think it loses out a little bit when you have a lot of tools that are very, very good at individual things. So, like, it's never going to be as good for creating e-learning as a traditional authoring tool, in my opinion. It's never going to be as good as video editor as Premiere or DaVinci Resolve. However, if you just want something that does everything in one place and you only have the budget for one bit of software, freaking ideal purchase.
Yeah, I have had no problem saying that I do not think Camtasia is a good video editor. I think it is a great video composer.
Yes, which is what most IDs need. Because most workplace video does not require the level of finish that a professional video editing suite provides.
If you need to color correct Bob from accounting in your meeting room, you're overthinking your training. Unless he's green, then you need a new camera.
The end. It's
get a new phone.
Yeah, I think there's two different sides to this. I guess as an external provider, I think it's a little bit different. As an internal person in L&D, absolutely. It would never... The idea of wasting time in color correction is ridiculous. Because usually, we all know when you're in-house, you have got a deadline of 30 minutes half the time to edit this, because you've got to go. Someone brought you this issue in the business that had to be solved with training with 2 days notice before you needed to launch a product. That realistically means you've got a day to make the product and a day to test and roll out. It's, you've got to go hard and get this done quick. You can't be using a different bit of software for capture, a different bit of software for composition, a different version for color correction and editing and all these other things. You've got to just get it done quick and get it out there, make it effective. As an external provider, kind of have the luxury of saying this project will take 6 months, and that's because we're going to spend a week in color correction, and we're going to spend a week in filming, and we're going to whatever else. So yeah, it depends on the world that you work in. It depends on the tools that you have and the time you have. But as a cover-all, one-stop shop tool, I think there's not a challenger really.
No, especially with all the team collaborations that they have with themes and things like that. I think they crush it. I think they crush so many things. He does look like ass, but Camtasia's fast. And Adobe bogs you down.
This is it, and you've got to at some point when you're in house and in the trenches, you've got to ask: would Bob looking a bit better actually help the learner?
Probably
Yeah,
not. If
if
he's from accounting, he's just boring.
you could blur him out, let's be honest. People would like that. To be honest, as long as the audio is good, you're fine.
Perfect.
Let's
And
be
that's
honest.
Audacity and Audiate, not Audiate, Audition. Anyway,
Yes, yeah. I'm a big fan of Audacity, despite the wobble this year with their licensing and data collection and all this kind of thing. I stand by Audacity as being an excellent tool.
we already
Um,
have all your data.
yeah, they're
Audacity is not giving us anything we don't already know.
no.
This
This is
so my credibility is I worked for Big Brother for like 4 years, and I had to train people as to how they operate like scheming sacks of garbage. We have everything about you. We know that you're watching this. We know how long you're watching this. We've got it.
But by we, just for the record, Joey doesn't mean we.
No, I don't. I don't have it.
Yeah, it's yeah. I think the level to which they were reporting the kind of the horse has bolted. It's too late. Springs to mind. But yeah, anything else on software updates?
Not really. Everyone's kind of, you get into that Q4 crunch. So next year's probably gonna be really good. As with most companies, September, October is usually where it ends. And then November, December is survive or just enjoy the holidays. Code freezes are gonna happen. Really excited to see what Captivate's gonna do. I think that in the next month, they're gonna start realizing that they have buzz. And again, if they're smart, they're going to start pushing that and teasing that and starting to encroach. I want to see it. But other than that,
Yeah.
everyone else is kind of boring. Fixing bugs, and VR, because Storyline thinks that's really going to catch on. It won't. It won't, guys.
Yeah.
No company is going to pay for the stupid eyewear.
And we say this as people who love tech. I always to stress that I'm not anti VR. I don't think you are you, Joey? You've got a VR headset, right?
I have a VR headset. I love it. I used to be anti VR just as a concept, but now I have a headset and I'm going to shut up because I really enjoy playing it. But from a training perspective, no, it doesn't mean anything. We've been approached a couple times with counter arguments of where it can be valuable, and those arguments are fine. They're good, but those are also niche.
Oh yeah.
Every argument has been niche of
Yeah.
engineering and medical and this specific, I got to have my hands in the exact right spot. It is not going to catch on.
Yeah, none of those applications are pointing towards a tool like Storyline. The only way to create those experience is custom coded environments, custom creations. Effectively, you're looking at VR video game design at that point.
Yeah.
And the kind of visually driven authoring tools, not happening.
So Craig, I'm gonna answer that by saying VR headset versus pseudo screen, because, and here's the reason: if I'm a company that's going to put the investment in even creating like a pseudo screen, a fake VR environment, I'm gonna want to invest in the headset. If I'm so shiny things are pretty, I'm going to latch onto the headset being part of the experience.
And like I say, I think there's value in those very niche environments. You know, know of an org. Oh, there you go, Morgan knows of an organization who bought 60 Oculus for private use. Well, that's just
okay.
See a lot doing the veneer of fake VR. Absolutely. Oh, by mistake. Oh dear. I like that. That's
Hold on, Morgan. Let's acknowledge what just happened here. Because if anybody's watching chat, if any you work through and it's like, I know of an organization that bought 60 Oculus for private use. So like, wow, that speaks a lot to the possibility of VR. Wow, what a statement for how much money can be made from VR by mistake. Oh, I misread that whole thing.
Yeah, that's yeah. But I first I agree with what Craig said there. companies I think are going to, and we're going to see a lot of that. We're going to see a lot of effectively kind of 1950s technology of like stereoscopic video played through a VR headset. We're going to see a lot of that.
VR now in Technicolor.
Kind of, yeah. Exactly this. The whole, to me, the value of VR would be putting someone in an incredibly realistic environment and challenging them to do something incredibly difficult or expensive or dangerous to do in a training exercise, right? That's where the value is. I have yet to see any VR environment that is even remotely realistic. And that's the value. Without the stakes of it feeling real, what's the point?
Right.
If everyone around you is a freaking cartoon character and they're going, "Oh, be careful, you could kill people," they're cartoon characters. Who gives a crap? You know,
VR Rond. Beyond, but VR.
This is it. And we are still at that point. I think the technology we need another decade, if not more, of that technology. When anyone who saw the who did them, it might have been Intel, at a big show recently, did stuff around realistic deep faked avatars. So they had real, properly creepy, like real people who do not in fact exist. They were a randomized collection of features created by an AI, and then animated and made to speak and given kind of AI patterns and all that. It's very, very clever. Once a whole VR environment can be filled with them and made to look genuinely realistic, so you would look at it and think, wow, this is like a photograph of this, or these people look like real people, they talk like real people, they interact like real people, then it will have value.
And then be cost effective.
Sorry?
And then be cost effective. And then the hardware has to be cheap as shit.
Yeah, this is it. It then needs to become as cheap as other e-learning. Because again, in the workplace, the answer is always going to be, is it actually more effective than what we can do for 10% of the price?
And then you have to figure out how the hell to train people virtually. Because it only works if you're in the office. I can only give you the headset if you're in the office.
Yeah, I think there's...
Or I've got to have you ship it back, which that's not going to be a thing.
No. Damage... Again, the cost there is the prohibitive factor. You know, we've reached the point where you can ship stuff relatively reliably, but if stuff's going backwards and forwards from lots of different people to a hub and back out and being used in different places, it's going to get broken, it's going to get damaged. You look at VR headsets on the market right now, they are not really repairable, so if they break, you've got to buy a new one, which means we're looking at a huge amount of e-waste generation, which is a huge problem in of itself already. We don't need VR adding to it. So they need to be serviceable, they need to be repairable, and they need to be cheap. The parts need to be affordable and readily available. There is not a manufacturer currently manufacturing that hardware, setting aside all the software problems. You know, it's my personal biggest gripe with VR technology right now is it is the antithesis of right to repair. It is unrepairable. It is unnecessarily sealed, glued, and molded, so that if the glass cracks in your Oculus, you need to buy a new Oculus.
Yeah. What
the hell? There's no need for that. It's a bit of glass. Take it out, put a new one in. Job done. But no, of course not. So yeah, technology updates done.
Technology updates done. This whole thing has spawned from we have Adobe knowledge, and we went 2 hours.
Absolutely.
Sort of getting somewhere.
So we are going to round this episode off, but I've got a resource to share. I'm not sure if you do, Joey.
Oh, crap.
I know we kind of ditched this segment for a few months. But,
we did, and I sneak it back in, and then sometimes I don't. I don't have a resource to share this time.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and share mine, because this is a resource that I'm super excited about. There's not actually a lot there right now. But one of my favourite L&D people, Helen Marshall, has finally started a blog. For those who don't know, Helen is currently the head of learning at Thrive LXP. Before that, she worked at Learning Pool, Capital Learning, but more than any of those positions, she's just a fantastic person in the L&D world. Great insights, but really grounded in what actually makes a difference to people. Very open, very honest, always amazing conversations whenever I run into her at events. Just this week, actually, she's running a women in L&D like discussion panel.
Nice.
That I need to catch up on because that looked amazing. So I'm going to drop a link to her new blog called Cause and Reflect into the chat. Her first blog has already gone up. And it was really interesting and was entitled, if I can remember, Dinosaurs and Robots.
Perfect.
So if you ever needed a reason, her L&D blog's first blog is called Dinosaurs and Robots. But yeah, she's so interesting. Fantastic person in the industry. So check her blog out. Check her out on LinkedIn as well, because she always posts really interesting stuff. Plus, she works for Thrive, and Thrive are freaking awesome. So,
There you go.
You know, win-win.
Cool. I didn't even think about it. I feel bad.
All right. That's okay. There's no heads up.
I've been a little busy. I was in Vegas this month. I was in Scotland this month. I am ending.
Huge.
I'm ending some projects I needed to end.
Yeah.
Hard. So hard. I'm not going to get into that because that's another hour.
I know, right? But what? Awesome. Right. Well, I want to say thank you to everyone who has tuned in. Thank you so much for joining us on the last Friday of the month. It is
September.
It is.
It is September 32nd.
Of September.
31st.
30. There were in fact 31 days in this September in the L&D calendar, and
31 days.
Of
half September. April, June, and November.
Yeah, totally. Cool. So we will be back next month. I think next month is the 29th of October is the last Friday. Assuming everything runs to plan, we will return.
Yeah.
Do let us know.
I'm really interested to talk about the introvert and extrovert thing. I want to play with that.
Yeah, I think we need to have a discussion about that. Maybe we'll do something before then to talk about that, or maybe we'll talk about that next month. You'll have to wait and see. Watch this space. Awesome stuff. Right, well, if you haven't already, subscribe here, subscribe in Decks and Drafts. If you do want to get involved for IDTX as well, do let me know. We're really keen to have speakers from all over the industry. Whether you've got loads of experience speaking or not, you'd be more than welcome. I'd love to hear from you, or if you just want to get involved in some other way, like do something in the expo hall with work you want to share, or a project you're really proud of, or a book you're writing, or if you're running a small business or whatever, get in touch. We want to get you involved. But otherwise, thanks ever so much for tuning in, and we will see you next month.
Cheers, mates. I ran out.
There's only one place for the breaking news in the world of instructional design. The ID Update with Tom and Joe. All the news you never knew you never needed. Only on IDT.